All right, hello humans, how you doing? Hey there Tomorrow, hey there Johan. I am hoping that my voice holds out for the stream because I have had a cold for like a week and a half and it's incredibly annoying. And you know, it's pretty much over now, but like my voice is still really scraggly. I'm really lucky that I got the audio for my video recorded like right before it happened. If anyone noticed that there was a little bit of kind of janky like peaking at times in that video, that was because my recording sucked, but I couldn't re-record it because my voice immediately got screwed by my cold. Yes, sorry. Also, hello aliens. Hey there Brett. Hey there Zith. Camera blocking chat. Oh, it is. Look at that. That's a new one. And fix. I had to reposition it because sometimes OBS just like loses the crop information. Like if you watch, ooh, there's actually way more of the room than I put on screen because my camera is kind of wide angle. And so occasionally OBS just randomly loses that crop. I think it's because the camera's internal resolution changes, or at least what it's reading as the resolution changes, and then it like breaks everything. So yeah, how is everyone doing? How are you? I was looking at Zepha today, and I realized I made a grave error like 3 weeks ago that I just didn't notice. And I'll show you real quick. Let me go down to here. Channel max. I think it was like that. Yeah, okay, so tell me when this loads if you see anything that looks kind of wrong. Found your channel from the Motion Canvas Discord, really liked your videos. Thank you so much. Basil says meow, meow. Why is game not loading? Okay, here we go. So, you're gonna see Zepha, and Zepha exists, and the new people here might not notice what's wrong. Uh-oh. Or the game will just, whoa, it didn't crash. Okay. Whoa, what have I done? I've done something horrible. Hold on. I made a terrible mistake. I don't know what I did. Wait. Are we fine? Are we alive? Okay. I just teleported halfway across the... Oh, I know what's happening. Oh, hold on. I was trying to fix some stuff here. I'll just do this for now. I was trying to fix some stuff with the task processing, and apparently I screwed that up. I think Basil will want cat ears. Well, cat ears are a privilege, not a right. The cat ears are on the Twitch side. I want to get a bot that actually lets like the channel points exist on YouTube as well, because I've been trying to shift more over to YouTube instead of Twitch for these streams, but yes. Okay, so here's Zepha. Notice anything weird about it? Something that might have happened when the lights showed up, for example. Maybe it's that I accidentally relaunch that. Maybe is that I might have just a little bit accidentally, come on, load so I don't have to keep like pausing what I'm saying, halved the intensity of all of the blocks. All of them were half brightness, and I didn't notice for like 2 weeks, and I so didn't notice that it ended up in my video. The B footage I recorded of my video was like half the brightness it was supposed to be, and I somehow couldn't tell until today. Curious how come you're moving from Twitch? Twitch honestly is, well, okay. It's actually kind of complicated, but I guess my main reason is that Twitch has no discoverability. When I post these streams on YouTube, after they get uploaded, they get like 500 to 1,000 extra views, which brings people to the channel. Whereas Twitch has nothing like that. Like, Twitch is only for finding live streams. So, like, the VODs, even though they exist, they don't go anywhere, right? Twitch is also quite, I would say, manipulative with their, like, power over the live stream space. Like, I'm technically breaking the Twitch terms of service right now by having the shared chat on screen, because you're not supposed to do that, because they don't want you simulcasting in other places. They recently allowed you to start simulcasting, but didn't allow you to do the merge chat, and I don't care, because I don't really have that many viewers on Twitch, so if I get banned from Twitch, oh well. But, like, you know, they're just very, I don't like their business practices. And, like, I know that's crazy when the alternative is YouTube, but at least YouTube is, like, their evil is understandable. Twitch is just kind of, like, gross. Gets banned right now. So just Twitch being Twitch. Yeah, I mean, I just think YouTube is a nicer space. It's a shame because, like, the subscriptions and, like, the custom emotes and stuff are better on Twitch, but, you know, YouTube allows me to have, like, to show the streams to my main audience, and it also allows people to discover them after the fact, so, yeah. Hey there, Bare Metal. Hey there, Dark Raven. Yes, this is a game dev stream. I tend to do streaming every Sunday when I can. Right now we're going over some Voxel engine stuff. I just released a new video on my engine, and I thought I would do a little bit of a more chill stream today, kind of answer questions. We're gonna do some debugging, because right now, if you notice, if I close the game, we get a bunch of messages in the chat and it stays open, and then it segfaults. And this has been an issue for like over a year, and I forgot to deal with it. I think I got lulled into the sense of thinking that it was just one issue, and it didn't really matter because it only happened when I closed the game. But I started debugging it like 2 streams ago, and then found out that there was like 80 different segfaults that are happening when the game tries to clean itself up. So, you know, we've put some work into it already, but I'm gonna see if I can stop this from exploding, because I would like the game to be able to actually gracefully close, because ultimately, I want to be able to show like an error log if the scripting breaks or something. I don't want to like just immediately evict the program. And so if it segfaults when it closes, I can't really do that. Never liked Twitch, terrible platform. I think there are appealing things about it. I like how its bitrate max is higher. I like its custom emotes and stuff. Its extension interface is really cool. My next project that I've been working on recently is going to be using that to do some sort of like rich streaming integration stuff. But I don't know, it just feels very predatory. It feels like they know they've got like the majority of the market share and they're just wielding that like a hammer. Although they technically don't really anymore. I'm pretty sure YouTube is winning out, so, you know, maybe that'll encourage them to be less blah. Thinking about moving when I start streaming again. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I simulcast, and I think that's the best of both worlds, because there are people that do prefer Twitch, and like, I have nothing against the like people that use Twitch. I just don't like it as a company. I don't want to be like, no, if you like Twitch, you can't watch the stream. But, you know, I definitely prefer YouTube as a platform. Game engine from scratch, yeah. I've been working on this engine for about 6 years now. And it's still heavily work in progress. I mean, like, 6 years sounds kind of dreadful, but I guess, like, an important thing to contextualize it is, like, I've never worked on this project full-time. At best, it's been like, oh, I have a, you know, a spare afternoon, or I'm gonna work on this all weekend because I feel excited to do stuff. You know, and so I've never really actually, like, gone super into it. Hi, how do you do GUI? My GUI is actually a hand-rolled solution. That kind of sucks. It's work in progress. It's worked better in the past. It's currently very broken. You can see the text rendering is all scraggly. But I basically re-implemented HTML Flexbox as a layouting engine, and then I wrote my own GUI wrapper to be able to create components and stuff. And that's basically the gist of it. It's just, I haven't put energy into it in a while, so it's kind of borked. I'm not sure I would recommend going that route. Creating a GUI system is really complicated. Okay, so if we are going to fix this segfault, we need to kind of like trace back where the program is going when it gets crashed, right? So far I've tracked it to killed array allocator, which is here. And that is when we kill the Vulkan array allocator. which is basically where the textures are being bound, and I think that's our main problem. So basically, the texture allocator is what actually creates space for textures, because the engine needs to be able to dynamically add and remove textures at runtime, because it has the ability to manipulate and create textures from scratch using strings and stuff. So we have a allocator which loads the textures, and then when the game is closing, it needs to unload all the textures, and the way that that happens is all of the textures are references, basically. I accidentally killed the music. They're reference counted. So long as something uses the texture, it will stay in memory, and once nothing is using the texture, it will direct the allocator to delete it. But the problem is that when the game gets closed, we start deleting all the textures, and I think what's happening here, because we can see current texture is 42, and then killed array allocator, we're actually keeping some references to textures around after the allocator is killed, which is causing the textures that are still around to try to delete themselves from an allocator that no longer exists, which is causing the world to explode. So I guess to test here first, let's go into here, and we're gonna go warn number of textures left, and we're gonna basically go this atlas. Why can't I do anything here? Is this a partial? Do we not have... Yeah, we don't. Okay, hold on. This destructor needs to be in the source file because we don't actually import the atlas type in here, probably because it's a circular dependency. So if we go vk array allocator, vk array allocator, so that we can get the destructor over here, and then we print out this atlas dot, yeah, of course, deallocation in the correct order problem, making Vulkan stuff is always about this. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big deal, right? Like, making sure that you deallocate dependent things before what controls them is probably the biggest cause for memory corruptions. That and double freeing. Don't worry, the segfaults will go away if you pretend they don't exist. If only. Okay, I don't actually have a method for getting the number of textures that's in the allocator, because there's not really any reason for that. So just very temporarily here, I'm gonna make this public, so that we can just print out its size. That will not stay, this is just for debugging. Alright. So, can you run on Intel integrated graphics? That's a good question. I've never tried. Theoretically, yes. I don't know if it would perform any good, though. It would have to be a relatively recent Intel card, because I do use some more advanced Vulkan features that are in, like, Vulkan 1.2 only, I think. But, like, moving forward into the future, by the time this game releases, it should be able to run on integrated graphics. Alright. I am going to kill the game. Number of textures left, 41. That is a code smell. Yep, we still have textures left. So, it's a non-existent stack. I kept getting those when attempting to make stuff in Vulkan. This is actually an issue outside of Vulkan itself. This is because my cleanup code isn't actually killing the textures, and I think I know exactly why. In fact, if we go... Do I debug the number of persistent textures? I don't. Let's do that. So there's an array here called persistent textures. And it is populated with every texture that is in the assets directory of Zephyr itself, which is not very many, but it does exist. And we're gonna log warn number of persistent textures. Persistent textures dot size. And I bet this is going to be 41, or perhaps somewhere around it. Am I using an address sanitizer? I usually do. I have it off right now because it wasn't being very helpful. Like, I basically know where it's happening, I just don't know why it's happening. It slows things down quite a lot as well. Oh, that's interesting. 136 persistent textures. So, hold on. Current texture is 189. 53. Interesting. If we... So... So we're not just keeping the persistent textures around, because a lot of things are gone. I guess I could... You know what I could do? Here's a way we can debug this. If we go to the texture atlas, this unlinking texture, number of textures, this is probably where the segfault is happening here, when it's trying to erase the texture. But if we log the texture ID before we ever reference the instance, it shouldn't segfault. So if we do this, we should be able to see exactly what texture is getting deleted. Oh, god damn. Hey there, Archie, how you doing? The video is awesome, and I can finally watch the stream. What? Yeah, thank you. And I see ears. God damn it. Okay. I'll grab the ears timer. One sec. This is what we're doing now. Alright. Timer. I still use a chroma keyed Google timer for my timer. Let's go. Ears on, ears timer capture, Chrome, okay. Yeah, look at that. This is professional streaming right now. Whoop. Okay. Alright, so let's take a look now. If I close the game, we should actually see what textures are being deleted. Okay, Zephyr: glyph options. So, what the hell is glyph options? Hold on, I need to find that. Oh, that is a really old icon from the menu scene. That's interesting. I guess that's in persistent assets though, so it would get loaded. Real cat ear hours. Yeah. Persistent textures. This is in the client. Oh, fuck me. Okay, I understand what's happening. So, wait, then why? Because there's a persistent textures in the world, and there's a persistent textures in the client. Oh, I'm dumb. Okay. So basically what's happening here is the textures are, the persistent textures in the world are all of the root textures in the mod assets. So if we go and look at a mod, for example, if we look at the default mod here, we have an assets folder with textures, and it's got all the textures that are in the game, right? And these textures are always persistent. If they're in the files, they're always loaded. Then any texture that gets dynamically generated, like say we take one of those and we change its hue, only exists as long as it's being used. And so the persistent textures in the world is just for the mod assets, but the persistent textures in the client here are for the engine's textures. Also, thank you for the tier 1 gift subs, Zith. Jesus, 45 gifts in the channel so far. Zeraface got a sub, very cool. What are your thoughts on C11 and assembly? Well, I mean, I don't know how qualified I am to comment on that. The only, like, assembly I've actually written has been MIPS. I've read x86 assembly, so I'm not really, like, I'm not completely uninformed on it, but I don't really know exactly what to think about it. I mean, x86 is pretty jank, honestly, from everything I've seen. I don't really code in C, I only really use C++. C is cool, and it's low level, and I like low level stuff, but I feel like I'd go crazy without smart pointers, so I do really prefer C++. Okay, here is the problem. See this? Deallocating or clearing textures? That happens here, but we don't actually clear the persistent textures anywhere, right? That's the problem. We need to go persistent textures dot clear before we clear all the default textures, because otherwise they end up getting deleted at the end of this destructor after the textures atlas is gone. 5 realizations in a row, my favorite type of debugging. Oh god, okay, Zith also doing a gift membership on YouTube. I guess the quality. Thank you so much, Zith. x86, 84 instructions are a total face roll. Yeah. Alright, so now let's try killing the game. Interesting. There was still 23 textures left. Zepha default material was the next one. I mean, at least we got more gone. How have I managed to do this? So, reached marker, clearing textures. So that's here, that's when the persistent ones are deleted. Happy I'm catching a live stream. Your recent video about indirect rendering is fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay, so we have 23 textures left, and one of them is Zepha default material. Which is generated in the texture atlas itself. It stores this in a shared pointer, so it needs to deal with that before killing itself. Which makes sense. That makes sense, because if we look at how C++ allocates and deallocates memory, it basically goes from the top down when it allocates, and the bottom up when it deallocates. Because these texture pointers are here, they will get allocated first before we allocate the allocator, which sounds like that should be a bug, because how would we have a texture without an allocator? But because they're shared pointers, they can be in a null state, and that's how they start out, right? So they get allocated and they're null, and then after the constructors finish running, so once we have the allocator, we actually create it in the source code. But when we go through and delete stuff, we start from the bottom and go up and deallocate the allocator. Then we get to these shared pointers and deallocate them, but the allocator no longer exists. Allocating the allocator, this is why I dropped sig. So there's 2 ways we could fix this. One is we could create a actual manual destructor, which would work. But I think the better way to do it here is just to organize our memory so that it actually deallocates properly. So we're gonna grab a public block down here. I fucked up all the indentation, look at me go. And I'm gonna leave a little comment for myself, just saying, must be destroyed before the allocator. And let's try it again, and hopefully we should be happy and this should work. Dropsig sounds like a German city. Alright, so if all goes well here, I don't know if this is going to fix the problem because there's 23 textures left, but it should at least get rid of some of them, right? Some of them should be able to be deleted. Did you pack only a small number of chunk meshes into the same buffer in your last video, or did you allocate one large buffer for everything? Sorry, so did you pack only a small number of textures in your last video? So you're asking, or sorry, a small number of chunk meshes. You're asking if I block a lot of things into a buffer? Yes, my actual buffers in the engine fit about 3,000 chunks-ish. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, depending on how many vertices there are. But I'm mainly accomplishing that via vertex pulling, which is a spoiler if people have seen the teaser at the end of the video, but you know, it's not that much of a surprise. I talk about it a lot in streams. But yeah, I use vertex pulling to pull all of the shared information from like the polygons of a grass face and like the textures and the normals and stuff into a single static buffer. and then I basically only reference the position of a block in the vertices, so it's really, really minimal. Alright, killing the game again. Oh my god, I think it clean exited, which is confusing actually, because it says there's 19 textures left. So how did that happen? Huh. That seems problematic. Is client the top level object here? I think it is. If I go to start game, it just runs client. This is just a function that is called by main. And then it returns 0. I'm just gonna log exiting Zepha right here. And hopefully we'll see a clean exit, but that still doesn't really make sense to me because I'm not sure how it managed to clean exit with 19 textures left. But we can figure that out in a second because we can print out the number of or all the textures that remain in the list. And hopefully that should inform us about something. Okay, so kill the game. Uh-oh. Corrupted double linked list. Interesting. By the way, what is the recommended amount of VRAM I should be using on the GPU for static world data? I mean, like, what is the recommended amount? As little as you can, realistically. Like, the less memory you use for the world data, the more world data you can store in the GPU, right? If you're wondering, like, how much you should fit in a GPU or, like, assume the GPU has, I would say just, like, pull the available space. That's what I do. Like, for example, the environments that I am currently rendering, if I check, Zeph is currently using about 1.5 GB of VRAM. Alright, let's kill the game. Exiting Zepha. So it clean exited, which is cool, but not correct. So let's go to the texture atlas. Okay, and we have current textures here. If textures.size is equal to 19, because we know it is, then let's go textures. God, I wanted to do a map, but of course I'm in C++. For let text of textures, stdcout text.second lock .identifier. This actually might be the problem, because these are all weak textures. Oh, thanks for the hydrate, Zith. I have no idea when you did that. Segfaults, have you heard about our Lord and Savior Rust? I have. I've heard a lot about Rust. Unfortunately, I have about 50,000 lines of code already sunk into C++, so it's a bit late. I suppose exiting with some texture still loaded is not good, but why wouldn't it be a clean exit? If you don't deallocate memory, the system is going to do that for you. You are correct. There's a couple reasons. I mean, for one, all the textures should be reference tracked, which means that the textures should be going away before the clean exit because the memory should all be deallocated. But also I want to be able to exit the game and go back to the main menu, right? And the fact that there's still textures left, like, lying around right now means that there's some sort of memory leak. What is recommended? Is there a Vulkan function for that? Yeah, I think so. I don't know where I do it. But I definitely pull something. Create GPU resources. Atlas texture units. I think it's vk get physical device properties too. Because if I go to cap properties, limits, max memory allocation count, max compute shared memory size, I think somewhere in here is going to be your memory limit. We're debugging a memory leak, not a dirty exit. Well, we were debugging a dirty exit, but now we've moved on to debugging a memory leak. Oh no, the Rust Inquisition arrived. Oh wait, WebGPU lets you give labels to everything you allocate. Can you label allocations in Vulkan? Because then you can see the names of the leaked textures. You can, yeah. VK get physical device the sequel. Yeah, Vulkan does like to just name things like 2 and 3, which is honestly really funny. But you know, I mean, it's better than just keeping the API static forever like OpenGL. Yes, you can label stuff in Vulkan, although I suspect this is actually happening outside of the textures being allocated in Vulkan. I think this is a CPU cleanup issue. All right, here's all our textures. We have our font. We have a bunch of static assets. Interestingly, some dynamic textures too. Like these, all of these things here are like dynamically allocated textures that should be going away. Huh. It's just a lot of weird random shit. Like, why is Zeus default grass top in here? Or Zepha button slider? Oh. Probably VK get physical device memory properties and then look at the heap sizes. Yeah, that would probably do it. Smart pointer moment. Yeah. Just wanted to tell you I respect you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. So, grass floating is also sticking around. This is weird. Like, it's not all of the other blocks. It's just... I have a suspicion, okay? My suspicion is that if I go into the nodes code here, and let's go over to just like stone. Currently it's just stone is the texture, but if we go like rotate 90 Zeus default stone, that's going to give us a dynamic texture for stone right now. And that's going to basically make the other stone depend on... So our rotated stone is now going to depend on the base stone. That's how that works. So now... I mean, other than the stone texture being rotated, which it looks like it is, if we close the game, I think we're going to have one more drop texture. Or not. Although, weirdly enough, I don't even see us unlinking. Oh, I guess I don't print the log when you unlink. No, I do print the log when you unlink. What the hell? Hold on. Let's do a slightly more complex logic here. Let's make the top texture red. Because the rotate could technically just be... I don't remember how I implemented that, but it could just be flipping the UVs around, which means it's not generating a new texture. But this multiply, that didn't work, should actually be multiplying, like creating a new texture, right? Maybe it needs to be proper syntax, or maybe maybe the top texture is not actually a texture. What's nice about OpenGL chat is that you can complain about some part of it and your grandma will be like, oh yeah, that quirk pisses me off too. It crosses the generation gap. Oh god. Why is it not building? Or just not working? This is weird. Oh, because I'm writing in the pebble definition. Okay. Sometimes I should read. Alright, well, we can check the pebble. Is this a normal day of programming C++? Yeah. Pretty much. Pebble should be red. Yep, pebble is red. Okay. And the problem is that it worked properly. Yeah? Okay. Well, 80% of coding, I was thinking C++ developers are like developing things blindfolded, knowing everything they're doing. It kind of feels like that a little bit. 80% of coding is figuring out why the new code you made and the other 20% of the time is not working as you expected. Yeah. Okay, hold on. So we know that it's not a problem of just creating dynamic textures. So what is the shared combination between all of these? It's almost entirely engine textures, but there's specifically Zeus default grass top, Zeus default grass floating. It's just those two. Do I reference grass top anywhere weird? Like, I don't think so. I mean, like, maybe in the TypeScript? That just looks normal to me. Like, that's all regular creating textures. Okay. So, I mean, let's look at how many of these there are. There's 19 of them. One of them is a font. So I guess we could try to kill the font real quick. Although, hold on. One thing I want to fix. Right now I'm printing this out here. Let's not do that. Let's go... like that. And then we're going to go into number of textures left. This is where we actually kill the allocator. And we're going to print this here so that we're always getting it right when the allocator is being killed. Because technically that 19 hack might be screwing everything up. Good thing I don't have to deal with object-oriented programming and templates when coding with C. I like templates. I really like templates. You have to deal with macros, which are probably worse. Interesting. So, very interesting. So did you notice that that crashed? The font was fine. I assume that's because the font was, you know, is being held in the font manager, which is different. Well, let's go let identifier is going to be text.second.expired, otherwise text.second.lock identifier. Because right now I'm trying to lock this weak pointer, and if it is null pointer, that would cause a null pointer exception if it's expired. But now this won't cause a null pointer exception. So I think what we're going to see is that it's going to expire, or all of these assets are going to be expired except for the font. Also, give me 1 sec. I need to blow my nose, and I don't want to torment you with that sound. Mission accomplished. Okay. What am I reading? Technically speaking, C++ is... Can someone explain to me what TypeScript is doing in the project? I was very surprised to see that. Basically, this engine is integrating V8, which is Chrome's JavaScript runtime, to be able to make it so that all game content exists as sandbox scripts, so that they can be sent from the server to the client without having to worry about any sort of, like, viruses or whatever. so that you can kind of just join everything. It's kind of like how Gary's mod does that with Lua, but I like web-based languages better because they're a lot faster and easier to control. I tried going macro only, but it's not worth the lack of types. Types are very important, yeah. Hi, I love the video about indirect rendering. Why aren't we hooking a debugger and poking around the values checking where we segfault? Honestly, I don't have a good reason for that. I just don't really tend to fall down to debuggers first. I just, like, they never feel like they actually do what I want, and also my dev tools kind of suck. We could give it a shot, though. Just saw your video in which you explained why you chose greedy meshing. There's a YouTuber 1010, he implemented greedy to be as fast as his cull mesh implementation. Have you seen the video? I still haven't watched the full video. I've watched a bit of it, and I remember I stopped a while ago because I noticed he made some assumptions that, like, I don't think I could do in my engine, but I still should watch it. I've just been, like, really distracted recently, but I should definitely try to take a look at it. Alright, let's try a debugger. Let's hope that debugger will help my suffering. I don't think it's going to, though. Also, wait, still a segfault here, even though I did this. That's very interesting. Because that shouldn't segfault at this point, because the texture should be expired. You can open GDB with your program's last state before segfault using core dump CTL debug. Interesting. I should definitely try that. Just building in debug mode so I can take a look at what's going on. What do you need to do with templates? I just cast pointers to void. Oh god. Okay. So, let's wait for a sec for the environment to actually be created, because I think there is a different segfault if I close the game while it's still creating resources, and we don't want to debug that right now. We just want to be debugging the thing that we're doing. Alright. Okay, I think we can close it. And not get any stack? Huh. Alright, well let's try what you were saying. Well, these are words. Huh. Okay, okay. Address sanitizer is here to save us. Operator equals equals and deck iterator became mesh buffer item. That doesn't feel like the actual correct error. Hold on. Huh. Have you tried to make smaller voxels? Technically, I could just make the player bigger if I wanted smaller voxels, but I really like the aesthetic of meter-long voxels. It's just a thing that I personally think that's a sweet spot, and anything less than that kind of becomes a different art style, which is not bad, it's just not what I want. Okay, oh wow, I don't know what I'm looking at. I do see that something is melting here. Hold on. I'm gonna just look at this for a sec. So, why are we losing... Why are we crashing here? let's go checking a texture. Also, wait, I want to get back on release mode. It compiles a lot faster. What are the drawbacks of OpenGL? Personally, I don't like how OpenGL just kind of does, like, makes a lot of assumptions for you. I ended up swapping from OpenGL to Vulkan about a year ago because I tried writing a, I tried basically writing a persistently mapped buffers implementation for the chunk buffers, where I could just have all of the chunk memory allocated at once and linked to the CPU so I could, like, manipulate it. And it let me do that, despite that not being a thing my GPU can handle, by lying about the fact that it did that, and instead allocating all of the memory just on the CPU and streaming it to the GPU every single frame, with basically no error reporting. And I was just like, what the fuck just happened? And it took me like 2 weeks to figure out why it was borked. Whereas Vulkan, if you try to do something you're not supposed to, it just says no, and it gives you an error log, like a good program. So that's my personal gripe against OpenGL. It's also just older, and a lot of modern features are only supported via extensions. And if you have extensions, then you can't do proper debugging with RenderDoc. It doesn't support OpenGL extensions, which kind of kills you. Like, it really sucks. I found both of your videos very cool. I've been trying to make a simple Minecraft clone myself, and both videos helped out. Thank you. Glad I'm not garbage for having my project crashing and having memory issues. Yeah, Well, now I'm getting an address sanitizer error, which is interesting, because that wasn't even happening before. And this is when there's 212 textures. And this is in the mesh buffers again. Oh, good. Hold on. Hey there, Intix, how you doing? Okay, can we get back to the bug we were debugging before? I would like to go back to where we were. I don't want to be in new debugging hell. Am I not in release mode? No, I am in release mode. Why is everything so slow? Why is everything not here? This is a new one. What have I done? Huh. Did I destroy everything? What happened? What did you people do? Okay, now there's an environment. Okay, checking a texture, we got the font. Checking a texture, we got a segfault. Which is really weird, because expired should not be causing a segfault unless there's a memory corruption. And I have the address sanitizer on, I think. I mean, let's try running in debug just to make sure. Hopping out to run some errands, have a great stream. Thank you so much. Thanks for stopping in. Classic whack-a-mole debugging, fix one bug and a new one shows up, yeah. What are the libraries and packages you use for this project other than Vulkan and V8? I use GLM for math, I use VK Bootstrap for setting up the initial device configuration. I was using eNet for networking, but networking currently is disabled. I think that's about it. Oh, I use TinyGLTF for model loading. Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. Okay, let's actually look at this fun memory corruption. Oh, exciting. I don't want to fix this. Okay, so after destroyed game, which happens in client game, we then have a heap use after free. So we've destructed something. You dropped GLM because it killed your compile time. That's odd. I mean, like, I get slow compile times from, like, if I clean the cache, but, I mean, like, after I do one compile, it's really fast. GLFW? No, I use SDL for windowing. But yeah, that is another dependency, sorry. Okay, so we're trying to destroy a buffer after destroying the game. But I'm pretty sure destroying the game... Okay, destroying world is when the world gets killed. Huh. Waiting till render idle, resetting scene, destroying world. That's when we lose all of the mod textures, as we probably should. Then we get destroyed game, which happens when the scene resets, because that happens in the destructor... Wait, no. Destroying game happens when client game gets deleted, which is owned by the world, right? Client game basically includes all of the definitions for all of the stuff that exists. So like all the blocks and things. Okay, so we have the client game and we're destroying it in here, which then we're trying to deallocate a bunch of buffers, which is interesting because it's happening when an entity mesh is being deleted. Which, in my opinion, so in my understanding of my own game, which is admittedly not as strong as I would like it to be, there is an issue here where the mesh is getting deleted somehow after the game is getting deleted. But because the game is the top piece of memory in here, I don't understand how that's happening. Did we ever get to reached marker? No, we didn't. Oh, I think I get it, So, reached marker should trigger after we kill the game. But the client game includes a mesh atlas. This client game saying destroyed game will happen before any of the manual or the automatic memory deallocation. So this mesh atlas is getting killed after destroyed game is getting killed. And this mesh atlas includes stuff. So let's look again. This is an entity mesh that's getting destroyed. And where the hell is get num entity meshes coming from? Entity mesh buffers, buffer num meshes. So this VK mesh buffer, is it storing mesh items in it? I don't think it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this thing... Oh, it does. Yeah, this item... No, but that's still just the items which are queued to be destroyed. And that's not actually an entity mesh. So, ultimately, somewhere there's an entity mesh that's being killed after the game is being killed. And it's in client scripted entity. The algorithm blessed me with your videos yesterday. I'm really glad. I'm hoping the video keeps getting more attention, but I'm worried that I've already gone through my YouTube advertising what I've created arc, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I want to try ray marching on the GPU. I have no idea about how it is in practice. All I saw was the theory videos from Douglas, Ethan Gore, Sebastian League, etc. on YouTube. I have not even touched ray tracing. I did a little bit of software ray tracing for a school project when I was still in university. but I've never done any hardware ray tracing. It's very cool, but nothing that I really do would benefit from that, so... Okay, where the hell are my client scripted entities? Because right now, this mesh here is getting deleted. So that's when this client scripted entity is getting deleted. On release last use, which is happening when an entity chunk is getting deleted. Which does not have a manual destructor, but it's still getting deleted. And that's killing all of the entity meshes in here. Yeah, because it has shared pointers to them. And that's occurring when a client dimension is getting killed, which also doesn't have a manual destructor, but it does just have a map of entity chunks. So a client dimension is being killed, and that's causing all this to freak out. Linux user. Yep, I love my Linux. I'm currently using Endeavor OS with GNOME. Okay, so the dimension atlas is getting destroyed. When the game is getting destroyed, I think I get it. So basically what's happening, client game extends game. Game includes a list of dimensions. The dimensions are getting destroyed, and that is deallocating all the meshes, but because this is a superclass, I'm pretty sure that Mesh Atlas will get killed first. So what if I do this? What if I go... What is this? Is this an owned value? Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna have to go remove 0. Well, that's not gonna work because the index will change. Wait, did you switch from Cosmic DE or am I dreaming? I've always used VS Code. I swapped a while ago from Sea Lion, but I have not like swapped recently. Hey Smarty, how you doing? Is working on a rasterized render going to teach me stuff that will prepare me for array marching, or are they different enough where I should just dive into array marcher straight away with no triangle? It's difficult for me to assess that because I don't know how hardware ray tracing works, but I think there is at least some basic stuff with polygons that hardware ray tracers still have to do. So, I don't know, I'd say probably get some familiarity with like rasterized Vulkan stuff, but don't dig too deep into it because it probably won't help. I can't decide what's scarier, being an Arch user or programming in Vulkan. That's a lie, Vulkan is way scarier. I mean, both are kind of nice. I don't know, I like them. Girl coding. Alright, I'm gonna add a new method to the Atlas type, and it's going to be called clear. And it is going to run this, and we're gonna run clear when the Atlas is deleted. Cool. And then if we go to client game, and then we go this.dimensions.clear, we should be able to kill all of the dimensions before we kill the meshes. Now, I actually think it's somewhat important to do a lot of that first, because we've got all these other atlases, right? Item atlas should be cleared, because it can have models. Liquid should probably be cleared. Biomes doesn't accept models. Decorations doesn't need models. Although, biome should be cleared before items. decorations should be cleared before biomes, because biomes have decorations in them. And then we should be able to kill the meshes, I think. Cosmic Desktop Environment, the one that System 76 develops. No, I've only ever used GNOME and XFCE. Hardware ray tracing just accelerates BBH traversal. I don't think it makes it any easier to program. Your work is honestly amazing and I'm all for it. I want to make stuff that, to inspire you back someday. I'm heading out right now. I have finals for the preceding month. Thank you. Good luck on your finals. I hope that you create something really cool. I'm sure you can. It just takes practice and, you know, I guess spending several years of your life creating engines. Okay. Returning a reference from within a container that could hit you with spicy. I was happy managing to make meshes spawn and then I see this. I mean, okay, this is actually me trying to clean up for some potentially really dumb decisions here, and I'm regretting some things that I've done. Okay, kill. Okay. Was it the same error? No, we got further along. This one happened... Wait. No, this is the same error. No, wait. This happened when we deleted a mesh definition, when we killed the mesh atlas in client game. And it happened on a heap use after free. Hold on, did I not write this properly? I did not. Items dot clear. We want to make sure that we actually delete everything here. Identifier map clear, tags map clear. We do not want to have any references left around, because if we delete the item but the vector still thinks it has items in it, then it's going to end up trying to double free. And actually, this is probably going to try and double free always anyways. We should just be doing this, and we should actually be doing this first. So this build is useless, so I'll just let it go. So if the container changes size pointers to it invalidate. That's why I always use IDs and indexes instead of pointers. Yeah, I also do that as well. Like, this items list contains pointers, and then these reference the pointers. So the vector's memory address changing will not change the address of the pointers inside of it. Hi Rayless, quick question. I know C++ well, but zero graphics programming experience. I value performance, but Vulkan seems complex versus OpenGL. Is Vulkan perf gains worth the complexity for a beginner? I think so. If you've never done graphics programming before, though, and the learning curve is too steep, learning OpenGL is not a bad start. But if you are quite familiar with C++, I suspect you'd probably be able to learn Vulkan. vkguide.dev is a really good resource for learning it. I'll throw a link in chat. I would definitely recommend trying that first, but if you feel like it's too much, then like for sure go learn Vulkan, or I mean OpenGL first. But Vulkan is like a lot nicer of a developer experience once you actually get it going, so I don't know, I would recommend that. Do you stretch the screen in OBS so it like fits the screen in this way? Because it looks like that kind of, or are you hiding the top bar? No, it's actually, if I throw it onto basic screen, you can see it looks like this, and I very particularly made the bottom bar with like my socials and stuff just large enough that it covers the taskbar at the bottom and the title bar at the top. So it just kind of fits nice and clean. Okay, kill the game. Another crash. Is it the same spot? Yes, actually. Okay, okay. VK mesh buffer item destroy, calling VK mesh buffer remove, which is in a deck, which I believe is in here. Yeah, we have this deck with items to flush. I bet what's happening is that this is already deallocated. Where do these mesh buffers get stored? If only I knew. VK mesh buffer. We're storing those in the mesh atlas for entity meshes. Yep, that is true. Which is interesting because why would that be like that? So oh wow, you did manage to make a hidden message, didn't you? Depends on your pipeline really. My game is simple enough to not need its benefits. Just using the GPU by itself is a huge perf boost. That is fair, yeah. I mean, like, if you're doing something relatively simple, then you don't need to worry too much about performance anyways. Like, OpenGL is fine, but Vulkan is really good if you're trying to push the boundaries. Okay. So what am I looking for? Okay. So the entity mesh is being killed. The mesh item is being destroyed. Then we're trying to remove it from here. This is happening when client scripted entity is going away. Oh, I'm seeing something weird. Okay, hold on. Let's look at the stack trace, because initially, I thought the issue was, yeah, that's not here anymore. Okay, I thought this was the same stack trace. I was lying. I fooled you all and myself, because I'm such a good liar, apparently. So, the issue. Wait, is my camera mirrored right now? No, it's normal. It looks mirrored. I don't know, I'm freaking myself out. Okay. Okay, so the entity meshes are still being destroyed. But they're now, yeah, interleaved lifetimes plus smart pointer. Yeah, I'm dying. Chronos are maintaining their own version of Vulkan tutorial? That's really cool. Hold on, I need to grab some more water. I will be back in 1 minute. Thank you for your patience. Got a message from 008 here saying, I do have some questions about Vulkan that maybe you'd be able to answer. I'm learning Vulkan right now, but most things I find are for the 1.0 spec. Are there any resources for modern VK? vkguy.dev. It is the best resource I have ever seen for this stuff, and it goes up to 1.2, I think. Yeah, the main guide is 1.2. So definitely check that out. Okay, so let's take a look at this again. So the client scripted entity is now being killed by... Oh god, it's being killed by the script module, which is happening somewhere. Why is that even happening? So when Zephyr gets killed, and it kills the Entity Atlas interface, which is the interface to the script API for the entities, we have in here a map from shared pointer scripted entities to unique persistent objects to get the instance for an entity. Why did I do that? What? Why doesn't the scripted entity just store its object? Hold on, why did I do that? Oh, because I wanted to make sure that there was nothing that depended on V8 stuff outside of the V8 folder. Oh, I thought VK Guide was just another Vulkan tutorial. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Okay. Also, I need to tilt my camera because I'm repeatedly off screen right now. And I think that's better. I think with how I've been sitting. Maybe. Okay. So, here's the deal. The scripted entities are being stored in here, which is causing them to not be deleted. Now, I think if I go into the client game and I kill the script API, which will be super fun to do because I can't destroy it. It has a destructor. I guess all I need to do is just move this and then create a function here. And then in the implementation, we're gonna write a clear function here, which kills all the loaded modules, which should get rid of those references to the entities. I could also just make those raw pointers, but I don't think that's actually what I want to do, because that is kind of horrifying. And then now if we go to client game and we call env clear, that should kill all of the modules, all of the interfaces, before we kill all of the raw resources beneath them, which should hopefully get rid of those pointers, which means that we're not going to be trying to kill the meshes after the mesh atlas has been deleted. We will find out. What is this function? Okay. After the chunks are loaded, we'll kill the game and we're gonna see what happens. Okay. Game is almost meshed. I assume it's done. Maybe. Kill the game. Okay, we got a crash. Where did it come from? Oh god, it's here. What is happening? Is this a high refresh rate screen? No, this is just 60 Hz. We're now getting... When the client is killed, heap use after free on a texture atlas when the allocator gets deleted. What does this even mean? Yep, I'm going crazy. I'm going actually mad. Cause what does the games destructor do? Nothing. Okay. Huh. God damn it. Why did I have to do this? Hold on, how would you see it if it was a high refresh rate? Because I'm still only streaming at 60 FPS. Yes, you're right, it does destroy its members. Okay, so the client is getting killed. Reached marker, clearing textures. We unlinked all of these until... Why are there 193 textures left? When we killed the array allocator. I don't even know why it would be killing the array allocator right now. Oh man, okay. Oh my god, the ears timer is about to run out. This is amazing. I'm free. Liberated. Wow. Okay. So, maybe the biomes are... God damn it. I will never be free. Brainless just issued another hour of years. I can't believe this. Okay. No rest for the wicked. Oh, and a stretch. Thanks, Sith. I could honestly use one right now. I'm trying to... I feel like my brain is slowly melting. 'Cause, like... Yeah, this is weird. Jingles are back? Yeah, jingles are back. What main libraries does this project use? Window making, audio, networking, input. I'm using SDL for window making, input, and I guess audio eventually. I'm using eNet for networking. I am using V8 for scripting, and I am using Vulkan for rendering. Platform compatibility, currently just Linux, but it is meant to be cross-platform to Windows as well. Forever doomed to wear cat ears. SDL3. So the error happens as you initiate the override. That's a great question. What if I just don't do this? Does it break later if I do that? What's your favorite Vulkan 1.2 feature? Asking because lots of people say it's not worth learning 1.0. Things like being able to skip some of the binding steps and pipeline setup. I don't know if it's actually specifically 1.2, but I really like device buffer addressing. That is really fucking cool. Being able to skip some of the steps of the pipeline setup is really nice as well, like the dynamic clipping stuff that exists. I've been so inspired to learn graphics programming / make a Voxel engine since being recommended your latest video. I'm Schmedium at C++, Schmedium. Decent at Luau. Any starting points you'd recommend? Thank you. I guess, I mean, I would recommend trying to learn Vulkan, but if you've not done any graphics programming stuff before, that is quite a learning curve, as we've talked about in the stream a bit already. I don't know, I'd recommend Vulkan for sure though, just because I think it's a lot nicer to use once you get used to it than C++. Yeah. Hey, right, Carl, but way I see it, peeps, like, literally take a physical video with their phone at their screen can capture multiple frames. I don't think... Yeah, I do not think that that would happen specifically with OBS. It's likely on the encoder side on YouTube, maybe? No, maybe it would happen with OBS. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about video encoding. Do you plan to ship with or without SDL DLL? I mean, my stance is that static linking is objectively superior to dynamic linking in every possible way, so I guess with? I mean, like, I don't think you need to bake the DLL in if you statically link it, do you? I don't know. Have I had any Wayland issues? I think it runs on Wayland, but I haven't tried in recent times because I use X11 myself. Wayland is just, I don't know, it's just flaky as hell. You know, when I installed this OS, it defaulted to Wayland, and I was like, wow, I guess Wayland's stable and nice. It's not. I swapped away from it like 2 weeks in because everything I was trying to do kept breaking, and I was like, I can't believe that this is still like this. Wayland is more flaky on NVIDIA. Yeah, that is where I am as well, which doesn't help, I guess. Static all the way, that changes the license though, right? I don't think so. SDL license. It's under the zlib license, so I don't think that that is a problem. Yeah, no, the zlib license is good. And SDL 1.2 and older are available under LGPL, which should also be fine. So no, I don't think that it should cause any licensing issues. You did freak me out there for a second. I was like, oh fuck, am I licensing some GPL thing? That's gonna suck. Static linking is way better for just making things work. Harder to mod though. I mean, modding specifically doesn't really matter to me as far as like actually editing the binary, because the entire point of this engine is that it has an API that is exposed that allows you to manipulate it just by writing script code. But yeah, static linking is just infinitely better. I mean, like, it's just... shared libraries are fucking useless. They are the worst thing that we've ever invented, and they cause so many issues, and I am very opinionated about this, and I'm not gonna rant about it for too long, but they cause so many more problems than they solve. Angry. You can link statically with LGPL, that's like its entire point, isn't it? Regardless, it's not GPL, so... What GP do you have? I have a 3060. I like static linking when you can use it, but for my engine I'm doing hot reloading and a plugin based system, so for that reason I'm using shared libraries. That makes sense. Is that just for development mode, or would you also need to do that in release mode? Oh, you're right, yeah, the static linking problem is only for SDL 1.2 or under. I'm sure LGPL is fine, isn't it? I wanted to swap to Zig because I swapped to Zig because Andrew was right. Shared libs are cool for plugins and stuff. What do you think about my comment? Create meshes for all possible permutations of a cube, discarding invisible sides, then send only the visible blocks to the GPU, and then we can multi-draw all meshes with a single draw call. For all possible permutations of cube, are you talking about, like, basically just creating a mesh for each, like, potential cube that may be rendered at any given time, and then using just multi-draw? I mean, that could work. I think you'd run into, at that point, like the draw call memory overhead, because you're gonna end up with a lot of information for like pointer addresses, and then you're also going to need to pass along stuff like position data in a really large uniform. I do think that chunking is still a better option here because of the way that it allows you to sort of condense information a bit easier. There's a strategy that I'm going to be talking about in the next video that is similar to that in some ways, called vertex pulling, which basically has you pull repeated information across faces out into their own buffer that is static, which is what I already do in this engine. So that might be a bit more like what you're talking about, but with it, I guess, working a bit cleaner. Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a bad concept. I just don't know if it would actually end up with that specific route working properly, because of the overhead of creating draw calls. Like, even if you're doing indirect rendering, your draw calls still take up memory. They don't take up much, like, you know, GPU overhead, but they still include a lot of data. Oh god, I'm so behind on comments. Static linking is much more sensible. Getting big boy GPU for gems, for fun experiments and stuff. Cool. Question about Zepha. How do you handle the grass blocks overhang geometry? Is it part of the ground mesh, or is it a separate draw call and gets merged with the grass and other foliage? You're talking about this overhang here, or this overhang down here? I guess there's a lot of overhangs. I'll just explain all of them. So this stuff here, the top overhangs, are just part of the side face of the mesh. If I was to like put a dirt block here and then go inside of it, you can see it's not being meshed. This stuff over here is part of this block's top face. And it is rendered conditionally based on some like binary nonsense. And then this down here is part of this block's top face. And it's also rendered conditionally based on if there is a culling block next to it. I haven't decided whether or not to use static linking for release for the plugin based engine. Need some more investigation. Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you go for with that. Do you use separate threads for updating the chunk meshes? Can you instantiate without, or can you instamine without rendering issues? I do use separate threads for updating the chunk meshes. In theory, instamining is not a problem. It's more so, the current issue right now is that when you actually break a chunk, it doesn't always update in the same frame. You can see that like the cursor moves about a frame before it actually gets destroyed, which is mainly just because I'm not actually like prioritizing user manipulation right now. I'm considering making like a shorter queue that runs on the main thread for direct user activities, so it doesn't have to like copy as much memory and do like a larger round trip and whatever to hopefully make things a bit faster. But no, large manipulations aren't necessarily a problem. I accidentally set it to dark. That took a fucking long time. Hold on. And 20 set air. I keep accidentally changing the time. Yeah, I mean, like, manipulations do happen quickly. It's just so, that there's a bit of latency between them getting issued and them getting updated right now. I think the black shadows are the new stretched UVs. You are correct, and they bug me a lot more than the stretched UVs, to be honest, so, like, they are on my mind. It's just that the lighting algorithm is still currently kind of broken, so I need to actually get that functional before I fix them. Because, yeah, they're pretty ugly. New eyesore unlocked. All the conditional texturing makes it look so much nicer. Thank you. I really like the conditional texturing. I think it like adds a lot to the environment, and it's also able to benefit from, like, there's a lot of things that benefit from that same system. Like, for example, if I give myself a fence, I think that's, no, that's not it. Give wood fence. I think that's it. Did I do it? Waiting for the meshes to render, because we're in debug mode and everything is super slow. Do your job. Did I just like somehow kill it? I might have, no, we're just still taking our sweet time. Okay, oh my god. Yeah, address sanitizer really slows down the threading for the chunk generation. It's really annoying. But all of these fences, they don't actually store data about what sides are connected. It's all like a during meshing time operation where it queries the neighbors to decide what pieces should be positioned, which is cool. Can we get a classic checkerboard lighting as an option? What do you mean by checkerboard lighting? Like, you're talking about non-smooth lighting? Like, if I go, like, give Zeus default light torch. I guess that's kind of hard to see. Technically, there is no smooth lighting happening right now. If I just grab a wand... Sorry. That probably really screwed the audio. And I go set Zeus default sand 3. I feel like... Yeah, it's hard to see because the lighting's so gradual, but it does apply, like, it is not smooth right now. There is a grid happening. Although, you know, staring at this does make me wonder if smooth lighting is even necessary for this engine now that I look at it. Because, like, can you see the different values being changed? I cannot. So, maybe I should just chill and allow it to not be smooth lighting. Bless thou. What distro is this? This is Endeavor OS. I don't know why I struggled so hard to remember that. How do you plan to do GUI and text rendering? Free type and just SDL's built-in / add-on? I have my own rendering engine, which is still very much a work in progress, but it's integrated into the scripting API really tightly, which makes it work pretty well. And I render text using FreeType. Like, this text is all FreeType rendered. I use sign distance fields, that's what they're called, right? For the text rendering, which works quite well. Although there is some rendering glitches with, like, multiplying against the background layer for some reason, which I still need to address. It was checkered when looking from above. Light cyan. Wow. Okay, I'm very annoyed by how long this is taking to update. Why? Oh, I think I killed it. The engine is in a perfect state right now, with no issues whatsoever. Hold on, I'll get a situation back where we can see that. Does your project already include level of detail rendering? Sort of. It has it programmed, but not integrated right now. It's kind of jank. I used to love Endeavor, move back to Fedora. Interesting. Can I see how you set up your CMake? I'm so confused as how to set up mine. I can. It's not gonna be very encouraging because I have no fucking idea how to set up CMake either. I just jank it around until it works. Why is it not? Oh, there we go. I can't actually see the checkerboarding. Like, I know it's there. All of these are just discrete light values, right? But I cannot see it at all. I might be really overthinking the smooth lighting stuff. I might just not need it. SDF fonts are so much better than TTF. They really are. OMG text, base text rendering with SDF. Did you read Valve's paper? I watched a video on it. I don't think I watched... Yeah, I didn't read a paper. I used FreeType 2 to generate the SDFs. It just has an option to do that. And then I implemented it in a shader to actually, like, render it properly. I still cannot see the checkerboarding. I think we're good. I think we don't need to worry about that at all. That's cool. Linux CTF font stack is the most complicated part of Linux I've seen. Oh god. Are all plants facing the player? Only the tall grass. It was mostly just an experiment. In the older game I had it be like traditional sort of like plus sign plants like you can see over here, but that was like that for all of the grass. But recently I tried messing around with billboarding it, and I honestly really like it. It creates, like, I feel a much more consistent looking world because the grass is always nicely oriented to the camera. And like as you're walking through the environment, it's really hard to notice. You can only really see it if you're like intentionally strafing left and right while looking down. I don't know. It's something I prefer. I might leave it as like an option to render it with like the crosses because I feel like people might not like it, but I really like it. I think it's neat. It used to be really intense, literally black and white. It was like, oh, you're talking about the checkerboard. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sidetracked by everything that's going on right now. Yeah, no, we're not bringing that back. That was a memory corruption. Are you certain that it's discrete light and not some shader magic that somehow made it smooth? I am very certain. Yes, it is completely discrete. That is not any sort of smooth lighting right now. The light values are only being encoded once per face, not per vertex. And everything you're seeing right now is just individual vertex values. It just has a ridiculously high light spread. Like, there is, I think, 128 different light levels that can be applied to each channel because of some weirdness with how it becomes circular. So the maximum radius for light is actually 64 blocks, but a full like 128, like 7-bit value gets sent to the GPU for each channel, so. I like playing GNU Make. I have not tried GNU Make. Oh yeah, I did say I would look at CMake real quick. I'm gonna do a quick scroll through. You can go back and look at the stream later if you want to look at it in more depth. I'm not gonna try to explain it because of this. Like I said, a lot of this is very kit bashed. I don't really know how any of CMake works still. It's just not been a priority. So that's the main CMake file, and then I also load the CMake file in lib for all of the external libraries that get built too. That is my build system. It's going to explode one day, and I have no idea how I'm gonna sort anything. You gotta definitely sort your mesh updates. Yeah, I really do. CMake is super easy peasy to set up. It probably is. It won't work on Windows. That is fair. I know it won't work on Windows. I'm gonna have to retool the build system when I eventually make this cross-platform. But I am expecting that. It's just something I'm gonna have to learn when it comes to it, so. Build systems are the worst. I found your video super helpful. I'm working on an engine in Rust plus Vulkan. I love C++, but I'm loving how easy Cargo Climb makes managing dependencies and building. Yeah, I also really like Rust, like, library system, but yeah. And probably not on macOS. macOS is not a target for me. The fact that they don't natively support Vulkan is basically just, in my opinion, them saying fuck you to game devs. And I have very little interest in supporting their platform if they're going to intentionally make it difficult for me. And also, you know, from a pragmatic point of view, their market share is not enough for me to actually care. And like, you could say that about Linux too, but Linux isn't evil. Like, the Linux, like, code base is actually nice and actually tries to support things. Like, if Apple wants to be intentionally difficult, I don't really have any desire to play along. Metal's pretty good, it's better than Vulkan. I mean, maybe. I haven't tried it, but I, again, wouldn't use a library that only works on one system. Like, Vulkan is meant to be cross-platform, and Apple just decided to say no. Metal is intentionally not cross-platform, right? So. Maybe it's better to have near plants detailed. Distant ones look pretty solid, but near ones look odd and break the illusion. Yeah, that might be worthwhile. I could probably do that with level of detail stuff. That might actually help a lot as well, because this does have the number of polygons for a tall grass, so. You gotta write your graphics platform agnostic, which sucks. Yeah, I mean, Vulkan gives you a lot of control over really low-level stuff that I've never seen any sort of abstraction layer be able to mimic effectively. So, I'm just enjoying Vulkan. I'm enjoying the ride. It works on Windows and Linux, and those are the platforms I care about. CMake is so annoying, dependency L every time. I completely agree, yeah. Have you switched over to Vulkan? I think one of your videos I just watched was about OpenGL, the sparse spineless texture one. Yeah, you've seen my greatest shame. The sparse spineless textures video was made right before I swapped to Vulkan. I said so much misinformation in that video, I hate it. Like, looking back on it just really bothers me. Like, I did research and I did attempt to do it properly, but I ended up just being very incorrect about a lot of things, which, oof. I also just really hate how I spoke in it. It's like, I don't know, that video freaks me out on a rewatch. But yeah, that was an OpenGL. Then shortly afterwards, I decided that OpenGL wasn't worth my time and swapped to Vulkan, and I've been happier ever since. Isn't there Molten VK to get Vulkan running on macOS? I do think that is the case. It is still, like, it's very much not a priority for me. If I, like, eventually get the game working perfectly on Windows and Linux, I might put some effort into trying to make it work. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like if I find time. Vulkan won't up and change itself on the whims of any one company. Metal could completely change and you'd have to deal with it. Yeah, macOS does seem to like to make big, bold, sweeping changes all of a sudden and then ruin everyone's lives, so. The only time CMake ever works for me is when it's just emitting a Visual Studio file. Misinformation queen. I feel like we got totally derailed from fixing the segfault. Actually, wait, hold on. Let's test right now. When did this crash? Did this crash before or after? Because... Before. Okay. I think I've just, like, accidentally found a new segfault by writing code, but I don't think the new code that I wrote has a segfault. I think it's just that I changed the binary and now the segfault's happening somewhere else, which is super fun. Let's try running an actual debugger real quick one more time. They recently just tore the guts out of Swift and people are giving up. Oh yeah? Okay, I was very interested in the development of Arc browser back when they were working on it, before they gave up. And I remember reading that they wrote it in Swift, and then wrote a compiler to make Swift compile to Windows. And I was just staring at that the whole time, being like, what the fuck why would they do that? I'm also just, like, really confused why modern browsers don't just make their UI in the browser stack like Firefox does. Like, you're already packing in an entire web rendering engine for the browser content. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are basically the most powerful layouting tools that exist in any language or framework. Why not just use that? Like, it feels so ass backwards to me. See the rant about Apple is the best way to clear your head to find a segfault. Yeah. I'm kind of new to this kind of low-level stuff, but I really want to learn them. I hope I can reach it one day. I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of, like, learning and reading old articles and just, like, digging through information. It feels a bit like researching, in a way, you know? There's, like, a lot of information in this space, and a lot of it is inaccurate. So you kind of have to dig through a lot to find the right bits, but yeah. My process is to compile library files for anything I need, and compile a library for each platform I want to target, so then I just make shell scripts. That's cool. I'm still at the setup Vulkan stage, but I keep refactoring my base app in Window trying to implement things in Rust traits the correct way. I should just get back to Vulkan and draw a triangle. Rust traits, I love Rust as a language. I really struggle to understand how to properly organize code in it, in a way that I feel like I don't struggle with in C++. But that is definitely because I learned from C-like languages. back asswards. I was gone for a while. Last I saw Aurelius was hunting down leaking textures. What'd I miss? I got super sidetracked, and now I'm not doing that. We're ostensibly still looking for that. We found the leaking textures, but now I've got a memory corruption. It's just, I've been very distracted by talking to people this entire time since then. If I'd known Arc did that, I'd be even more skeptical of them. Oh, did you see that heinous remote code execution exploit Arc browser had because it put your user scripts in the cloud? I have not. That is horrible. Do you cache your shaders? I mean, they get statically built when the engine compiles. So I think, yes. I need to make a more sophisticated system for that, where I actually compile them at runtime. I need to get the Spurvy compiler in here. But for now, since I'm only really developing on this one machine, it works fine. I'm staring at this code. And it is not revealing itself to me. It's not just telling me exactly what's wrong. Can you believe that? What are Uber shaders? Uber shaders are basically just when you have a shader that has a massive condition block within it that, like, controls everything without a pipeline swap, from my understanding. I guess my shader is kind of an Uber shader. If I go to my world vertex shader, you'll see some beautiful, horrible things. All of these defines here are all different modifiers that can be applied to meshes, which are then computed down here in a switch case. It's magical. Did you go to college? I went to university in Canada. I just finished my final courses last semester. I've technically not graduated yet because I have to change my degree program and do a bunch of bullshit, but I've done all of the courses I need to graduate with a Bachelor's of Computer Science. And I expect to actually get the degree in November of this year. I recompile my shaders every frame. Oh god. I call it throwing shade. Wait, I mean the Spurvy gets compiled at runtime each time though, right? I think that is cacheable, so you don't even have to recompile Spurvy. No, it's they're compiled just when they change by CMake right now. Dolphin uses an Uber shader to run the GameCube GPU as a shader to avoid shader compilation stutter. That makes sense. My brain dead. My brain dead too. Wait, you're not using a debugger? I would be, it's just not working. If I run this debugger, maybe if I actually run it in debug mode. Debug mode is so fucking slow though. I mean, we'll see what happens. But like whenever it actually segfaults here, it's not actually catching on the debugger and I have no idea why, and it's really annoying. If your debug is slow, you gotta optimize. I don't know. I think it's just too far gone. Is an Uber shader just matching a bunch of random material shaders together? Kind of. Let's see where this goes. If this doesn't kill, if this doesn't catch on the segfault, I give up. We'll do it, we'll debug some more next week, if that is the case. Alright, yeah, my frames are taking actually 3 seconds to run. That's great. Yeah, no, it's real bad right now. In fact, I think I'm stuck. Hold on. Kill. I need to not click into it, because it'll freak out. It's not bad PC. I actually don't know what's killing it so much. I should probably debug that. I should probably figure out what's going on. Die! You can try O1 with -G. You might be right, but honestly, I don't really want to get into this more in this stream. We've been running for about 2 hours now, debugging this stuff, and I just want to chill a little bit. I'm just gonna see if the debugger gets caught when I try to kill it. Debugger is #1 priority? I don't really get that much use out of it. doubling each tick. Yeah, I give up. I give up. Maybe we'll fix the debugger next stream. We'll see how that goes. Most stable dev build ever. Frame time doubling each tick. Your shader source is SPURV, but each time you reload the application, the Vulkan driver compiles a SPURV for your graphics card, so you can cache this. It will only have to update with each driver update. I didn't know that was a thing. That's cool. Alright. Alright, people. I'm doing it. I'm cutting it off. I do not want to debug anymore this stream. I also really need to get some lunch. So I'm going to field some questions. And then we're gonna wrap it up. Just for all the people that are new here, because we're getting a lot more live viewers than we usually do. I do these streams every week, and usually they're a little bit more getting anything done. This was a rough one for sure with the debugging. I had a lot of fun still, but like we didn't really figure this out, and it's really a huge mess to untangle. So I think the engine is in need of some tender love and care with actually getting the like debugging and everything working properly, because yeah, it's pretty extremely bad right now. But so yeah, how do I feel today? Honestly, I'm still kind of out of it from my cold. I don't know, maybe I got COVID or something. I didn't even check because I've basically just been holed up in my house the whole time, and it didn't feel like last time I got COVID. But like I've had a cold for like a week and a half, and it's gone now, kind of, but like I still feel very sniffly, which is very annoying. But you know, at least I have my voice back, which is nice. Yeah, I mean, I can tell it's fading, whatever it is, so I'm hoping within the next day or two it'll be gone. But yeah, it really knocked me out at a bad time too. I have like a bunch of stuff I need to get done for a deadline that's approaching, and I was very annoyed to get sick, but you know, it's not COVID. We'll see. Love Vulkan graphics and C++ content. Thank you. Sniffly. I wish I wasn't sniffly. Good thing the game's pretty and the process is nice. Very funny in a horrifying way. Yeah. Your motion canvas animations are so good. I love when you show cube vertices 3D animation. Thank you. COVID can be mild or asymptomatic. Yes. I mean, I've gotten COVID before. I know what it felt like when I got it, and this felt not really the same, but a little bit similar. So, like, the last time I got COVID was, I think, 8 months ago, so it could just be that I have some lingering antibodies, which made it less bad this time. I wouldn't be super surprised, but, you know, again, I didn't test, so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm doing fine. I'm just sort of low energy right now. But by next week, I will be better, or I will go to the doctor, because if I have a cold for 3 weeks, that's a problem. Yeah. Thank God you're walking around the world all the time. I love just like holding space and wandering through the terrain. I don't know, I feel like it's a bit zoomer sensory. I hope that I'm not like making it worse for people by doing that, but it's just so nice to just wander through. You saw the sticks on the ground. Where are the sticks? Is that where they are? Are they down here? Yeah, sticks. Stick, fern. I like these ferns. I think they're cool. They can have like an actual flower on them. I did that and I'm way beyond a zoomer. Oh, has anyone seen, here, I'm gonna show something. This is like a stupid thing that I have in the game that's been around for a while, mainly because it's just for stress testing mesh updates. And I end up usually doing this during the streams, but I haven't done it for a little while. Observe. Flower invasion. I'll just zoom out a while. We're just gonna watch these slowly take over the entire world. Mesh updates. Yes, they just spread forever. Zerg Rush. I mean, the game can handle a surprising amount of mesh updates per frame. The main thing that actually causes it to stutter is if I move to a different chunk and it starts generating stuff behind me, then it freezes all these updates. They're not prioritized properly. But you can see they do resume, and they eventually go full speed again. I like that they're stopped at the cliff face. They gotta walk like we do. Yeah, they can only go, I think it's like within a 5x5x5 box around them. So they can get stuck. They also do eventually, like, there's a certain limit to how many can actually be updating at once. And it won't queue a new update if they're full, so like it can eventually trail off. Minecraft would die with that. Yeah, Minecraft's mesh updates are pretty bad. Oh, did it stop? It stopped. Oh no. If you did a video on a physics library like physics or bullet or something else, that would be sick. Also, you should use quaternions so you can barrel roll. I do use quaternions, actually. I'm not super familiar with physics libraries. I probably want to learn some at some point. One of the goals of this engine is that I want to be able to have physics dimensions, like subdimensions. So like I want you to be able to make things out of blocks and have them be entities that can move around in world space. A lot of the architecture of the engine is designed so that entities can be childed to other entities and be like positioned arbitrarily. I haven't got any like demo of that yet, but I know I want it because I want you to be able to make like vehicles and stuff because I think that would be really cool. So at some point I will probably do something with physics. I use quaternions as the new I use arch. Go stand in the flowers. Flowers. Can you do it in a shader so you don't have to update any mesh, but just draw a new instance on the border of the previous ones? Maybe not saying that right, but I... are you talking about, like, drawing new flowers in shader code? Because, like, I could do that, but then they wouldn't actually be persistent, right? Like, the reason that I have the world is so that I can have persistent state. Godot and Zepha. Like, Archimedes ships and create? Yeah, exactly. What was I? Oh yeah, quaternions. You want proof of quaternions? Check out the smooth camera. If I twist around enough, it changes the yaw. Because I'm just slurping. Spherical linear interpolation. I also somehow crashed the game. What the fuck happened there? Okay. Slurp is the grossest term that is like technically a programmer term ever. Slurp. Spherical linear interpolation. Yes, if I do that, you can see the world gets wobbly. This is my smooth camera. You can see like the actual raycast for what block I'm pointing at is not smooth. It's just the camera's position. Whoa, really loud car outside my window. Very nice. Quaterned by your own Ian. No, it is called slurping, and it's horrible. Spherical linear interpolation. True, it would just be an instance copy. I'm not sure if you could transfer results of a compute shader back to the CPU and save it, maybe. I mean, it would be possible, but keeping the source of truth for the data on the CPU ultimately just makes things a lot more simple for dynamic environments. Quaternions are probably the closest I've seen IRL to Eldritch madness. Yeah, they're pretty fucked up. I tried really hard to get an intuitive understanding of how they rotate, and I failed. Like, I've looked at like so many different resources trying to explain how quaternions actually encode their rotations, and I have just accepted that I am not smart enough for that, and to just recognize that they work. I don't know, maybe eventually I will understand. Do you use an ECS? How's your engine architected? I'm not really using an ECS. I mean, I guess I kind of am in a sense. More of a registry system. Environmental details like the blocks and stuff have callbacks and hooks and data that are stored in a contiguous array, and then the chunks are basically just references to indices in that array for their behavior. Entities are more object-oriented, mainly because they're actually controlled by script code. Like, all of the game content is defined in JavaScript, and then it gets controlled over there. And then C++ renders the actual hard-to-render stuff, like the chunks. The guy who mathed it out was possessed by it one day and carved it into a bridge. I heard about that. I hope you're not joking, because that is like a horrible case of me having no brain. But I've heard that they literally like carved it into somewhere, which is funny. Why slurp and not just multiply the current quaternion with rotation? Going for floaty rotation? From my understanding, multiplying quaternions together doesn't necessarily do a like actual eased interpolation. You need to do a spherical interpolation for that. And yes, this is specifically smooth camera mode. It's kind of like Minecraft cinematic camera. It was mainly for recording videos and stuff. I can turn it off and it's normal again, but like it's nice to have the option for recording stuff smoothly. The machine rises against its creator. Doctors say you should get 8 hours of slurp a day. This game is a function of data. Yeah. All games are effectively functions of data. That was one thing I remember when I was like 10 years old and I was first trying to learn to program. Something that really got to me was I didn't understand how a linear line of code, or like process of code, could ultimately become something that has motion, you know? Like, you see code and then your basic understanding of it is that like it runs line 1, then line 2, then line 3, onwards, right? And like ignoring multi-threading, because that's not actually helpful for this. You know, you think about that and then you look at like a game that has the illusion of motion and you go, well, how does that work, right? And I think the moment that I eventually realized that it is just the fact that like it does do everything in order really, really fast was the moment where I actually understood how code worked. It was really cool. How long does it take to add new features? It depends on the complexity of the feature. Adding new blocks and entities is really fast because the API can already do that. Adding new engine stuff can be fast if it doesn't have to do with like world state. But the moment that it's like data stuff, where I have to like add a new type of storage for something like liquids or whatever, that becomes messy. This terrain generation seems very unique from every other voxel game I've seen. Really cool. Thank you. The world gen is actually also defined by scripting stuff. Like, I use a native library called FastNoise2 for the actual computation of noise data. But if we go and look at the biome file, which is very ugly, very messy right now, the definition for the noise is all of these noise modules here that are just like cascaded onto each other. And then they eventually get passed into the game here in biome.add, where we pass in the noise, and then C++ converts it into an actually optimized process. $1 billion corporation versus determined cat girl. I will kill anyone that calls me a cat girl. This is because of channel points. There's no ulterior motive here. You slurped too much. I'm now slowly switching from Godot-specific custom resources towards JSON storage. It's so human readable and literally is like create interface. Yeah, I mean, JSON is definitely really nice. I personally like YAML a lot more, but JSON is better if you're writing from computer stuff. But if it's just config, YAML is so good. YAML is my favorite. I use it for all of like the config stuff in Zephyr that doesn't need to be machine written. Like any sort of like manifest file where it's meant to be human read, or human written but computer read, I use YAML instead of JSON because it's just, oh, it's so good. Multiplying your current quaternion by rotation quaternion can correspond to rotating around a local axis, can give you good rotation, although not smooth. No reason to switch to that method though. Multiplying your quaternion around a... Huh. I guess you have to normalize after that though, right? Not smooth as in not floaty. It would just be like Minecraft. Yeah, I might actually be doing that for the non-smooth rotation here. Although I don't know, so don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've poked around at that. Iterates through folders and finds the files, so I can add a folder, make a scene, and it finds it. That's super cool. Alright everyone, I think I'm gonna close up shop here because I need to go get some lunch and I need to open my window because the temperature is gradually increasing in here over time and it feels like it's like 25 degrees right now and my Canadian existence can't handle this. Oh, thanks for the final hydrate, Zith. But yeah, thank you all so much for showing up and watching me suffer through debugging. I really liked answering all the questions. I do this every Sunday at noon PST. So basically the beginning of like this stream every Sunday. And other than that, if you want to chat at any time, I have a Discord. The link is in the bottom right, yeah, that way. This is mirrored. Why is my camera mirrored? Okay, I'll figure that out later. Wait, no, it's not mirrored, because if it was mirrored, it would be normal. Okay, I'm not crazy. But yeah, other than that, thank you all so much for hanging out. Definitely come to the next stream if you want to. Discord link on the screen. Yeah. Alright, everyone. You'll probably get more done without answering questions constantly. You are probably right, but answering questions is fun. Have a nice lunch. Hope it'll be nice and tasty. Thank you. I love bouncing around in an empty game world, though. It is fun. Although, spawn, rabbit, 100. Why didn't that work? Spawn, Zeus default, rabbit, 100. There we go. It's not so empty anymore, and now we've got 100 poorly optimized rabbits that aren't being illuminated. Wait, what am I waiting for? Fun stream, have a good afternoon. Thank you. Hold on, am I getting a message? Oh, yes, okay, thanks. Brian is reminding me that there is no stream next week because we're actually traveling to a game showcase in Seattle. So if you're in the Seattle area and you want to go to the Seattle Indie Media Group, The Sims Queer Game Showcase, you can search it up online. We're going to be there. Not showing off Zepha, but we're showing off a different project that we've been working on. So if you want to say hi, then yeah, say hi. Other than that, thank you all so much for hanging out. No Ari next week, but the week after that, for sure. Alright, bye everyone, have a great rest of your days. Goodbye forever for 2 weeks.